Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat 101 with your legal BFF, Girija Patel. I am so excited to be here with you today. I will be sharing with you what the separation is between actually your LLC's entity and you as a member owner entity. Sometimes we get confused and we think it's all one and done at the end of the day, but we're really not. We're two separate entities. And so I want to kind of discuss that about this today and the steps that you just need to take when you are, creating your operating agreement and your contracts as well. And so we are going to be diving into that clarification today. But before we start, two things. Number one, the information I'm sharing with you today is for general purposes only. It's for educational and informational purposes only. It has no other intention behind it. And if you do need some specific legal advice for your business, please do contact a lawyer. And number two, if this information and if other information that I have shared on Law Chat 101 or even Law Chat is beneficial to you, and I know it is, then please go subscribe and share. This is the way this YouTube channel will get more traction, more views, and more views means more people benefiting, more business owners benefiting, and the community benefiting in general. So please do share, tag GBP Law, tag Law Chat with Girija while you're at it, and let me know what you think. Leave a review. Everything you do is helpful, and so I really ask you for that favor. And thank you in advance. So let's get started. So legal entities are out there. And at the end of the day, if you are, again, a sole proprietor or a general partnership, there is no particular legal entity attached to you. You are one and done with you and that company that you are working in. So in order to create differences and divisions and to make sure that the company is one and you are one, you have to file for a legal entity. Generally speaking, a lot of people like to do the LLCs, which is a limited liability company, but there's many other options out there, limited partnerships, and a lot of times real estate companies have a combination of both. And so you just have to see what really works for your business the best way. So do consult a business lawyer, consult, your tax advisor as well, and they can really assist you on what is the best entity for you. But what we're really going to be talking about today is the entity versus the owners. And so just for purposes of examples and the conversation I'm having today, I'm just going to talk about the LLC because it's kind of simple in that sense. But when you have an LLC, and when you have filed for the LLC, now you are a entity. You have an entity formation under the state that you are in, and it is recognized as an entity itself. Now, the owners of that entity, which could be the members of the LLC, are also people who own the LLC. They have interest in the LLC, but they are separate entities from the LLC. They are not one and done. Now, a lot of times in practice, we are treating it as one and done because at the end of the day, it's our baby, it's our business, and we just started it. A lot of times, if you are a sole proprietor or a single member owner of the LLC, then again, it feels like you're a sole proprietor at that time, and it feels like that we are one and done. But the reality is that the whole point behind getting the LLC is to make sure there's a difference and a separation between the company and between the person who owns the company. And the reason for that separation is so that you're protecting your personal assets and your assets are not getting commingled with your entity's assets or the company that you're running. And the business operations, the business relationships, the business actions, whatever that's happening there is separate from what's happening in your personal life. And so they're not touching each other and commingling at that point. Because at the end of the day, you don't want your personal assets online for some liability that your business might have. But what really truly makes that differentiator factor is the LLC Operating Agreement, the company agreement, as some companies call it, or even the LLC agreement. There's many names for it, but at the end of the day, they all function the same way. And the idea is that you have clauses in there that show that the LLC is responsible for all their liabilities and the members are not responsible for the liabilities. Now, of course, there's certain things by default, by law, that will pierce that protection or pierce the corporate veil, as they call it. And a lot of times those things are where one of the owners or a director or somebody has done something very intentionally and with malice. It could be something like embezzling, or it could be fraud, or it could be something else that shows a lot of intention behind it and purposefulness behind it, and not just a mere negligence. And so those things are where it pierces the corporate veil, and your company agreement perhaps will not be protecting you from that in that sense. And even if it does, sometimes the code will supersede that agreement, because by law it's just something that you can't contract out. And that is a thing, guys. You cannot contract everything out by law. And so you have to kind of go into the default of what the law says at times too. And well, with that being said though, the company agreement is important to have so that you can create that distinction between the company and between you. And it's a contractual relationship now that the members have with the company. So it's not just something that you have, it's in place, but it's a contractual relationship between you and the LLC. And it's important to have that, because now the LLC is promising you certain things and you're promising the LLC certain things as well. Especially if you have more than one member as the owner of the LLC, then you need to have that contractual relationship on a piece of paper. Many states don't require a company agreement, but at the end of the day, if you don't have one, you may not be afforded all the protection that is supposed to be given to you through this company agreement. So it's very important to have this company agreement in place. Now, another thing that this company agreement does for you and the LLC and as a partner, you need to understand that you're two separate entities. Just because the company owns something doesn't mean you own it. And that's very important to understand, especially when you are more than one member ownership of the LLC, because the assets, the money, the profit, the intellectual property that is owned by the company is the company's. And the company, through the company agreement, will afford you whatever you're supposed to get, if you're supposed to get it. And a lot of times the intellectual property is the company's, and it's not owned by any one specific member. And so if you are selling intellectual property or licensing it, it's the company licensing it, or it's the company selling it, not the members per se under the law. And so that distinction needs to be understood, especially when you are signing agreements. The company agreement also have whoever drafted that company agreement for you as a lawyer. Maybe as members you want to have another lawyer review that company agreement for you to make sure it's good for you, it benefits you, and it's fair for both parties or all parties as well. And so having that separation and that understanding is really important, because when you hire a lawyer who is representing the company, they are representing the company's interest. They're not representing the member's interest per se, individual interest at all. And so say a company hires me, I try to keep it very clear that I am being hired by the company. The company's interest is what matters to me, and I will be working with that perspective, that what is benefiting the company the most, and not necessarily the individuals, the members, and their benefits at that point in time. And so that's some distinction that may not be always made, but definitely it is something to be understood, because at the end of the day, again, the entity, your LLC, is one entity and you are another entity who is contracting with the LLC, even though it's your baby, even though it's your business, even though it's your brainchild. That's what happens at that point. And these things become issues later on if there is a separation of partnership and the partnership is dissolving that you have with other members, or somebody is trying to buy you out. And so these things start surfacing at that time. And so if you are a member of an LLC and you might be the majority owner or you might be the minority owner, then you need to think about how is the LLC structured in the way that if we were to make votes, then how would my vote count? What would be the impact of my vote? What would be the influence of my vote or my opinion at that point? So these are all important things to consider when you are creating this LLC agreement, but also to know the difference between you as a member and you as the LLC and the entity that you have created now. So this was a really quick tip today, and a really important tip to know the difference between the entity of the LLC and the entity of the members of the LLC, and that you guys, there's distinctions there. It's not one and done, and there is a separation there, and it's very intentionally made when you create that LLC. Now, I know this was helpful, so again, I'm going to ask you to share this and subscribe so you don't miss any other future, Law Chat 101s coming out, and the latest and the greatest coming out from Law Chat as well. We have some amazing guests that come on Law Chat, and they are industry leaders, entrepreneurs, people who are just making a lot of shifts and waves and moving mountains. And so tune in, and again, subscribe and share. Thank you so much. Until next time, see you later.